Private James Cooper stared out the window of the bus as it rolled down Main Street, his fingers absently tracing the outline of the Purple Heart pinned to his chest. The faces of curious onlookers blurred together, their expressions a mix of awe, pity, and something else James couldn't quite place. Discomfort, perhaps. Or was it fear? As the bus came to a stop, James took a deep breath, steeling himself for the moment he'd both longed for and dreaded since the day he'd left for war. Home. With a grimace, James grabbed his crutches and maneuvered his way down the aisle. His left leg, or what remained of it, throbbed with each movement. As he descended the steps of the bus, a small crowd had gathered, led by his parents and younger sister, their faces a mixture of joy and apprehension. "Welcome home, son," his father said, voice thick with emotion as he embraced James. The hug was awkward, James's crutches creating a barrier between them. His mother sobbed quietly into his shoulder, and his sister Sarah hung back, eyes wide as she took in the changes in her once carefree older brother. As the family made their way home, James couldn't shake the feeling of being a stranger in his own skin. The familiar sights and sounds of Millbrook seemed to belong to another lifetime. That night, as James lay in his childhood bed, sleep eluded him. The softness of the mattress felt wrong after months of sleeping on hard cots or the unforgiving ground. In the stillness of the night, his mind wandered to the friends he'd left behind, both the living and the dead. He thought of Martinez, Williams, and Johnson. As dawn broke, James gave up on sleep and made his way to the kitchen. He found his mother already there, dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she too had had a restless night. "I don't know how to help you," his mother finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I want my boy back." James reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I'm trying, Mum. I'm trying to find him too." Across town, in a modest apartment, Amira Hakim startled awake, heart pounding. In her dreams, she had been back in her hometown of Mosul. The sound of her 5-year-old son, Tariq, calling for her snapped her back to reality. "Mama, I'm hungry," Tariq said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Amira forced a smile, pushing away the lingering tendrils of her nightmare. "Of course, Habibi. Let's get you some breakfast." As she prepared a simple meal, Amira's mind drifted to the life they'd left behind. Her husband Kareem, their home, and the harrowing journey to safety. Tariq's laughter as he played with a toy car brought Amira back to the present. She watched her son, marveling at his resilience. Unlike her, Tariq seemed to have adapted quickly to their new life in Millbrook. He was learning English at a remarkable pace and had made friends. But Amira knew that the scars of war ran deep, even in one so young. She saw it in his reactions to loud noises and the questions he asked about their old life. As they finished breakfast, Amira glanced at the clock. It was nearly time for her shift at the local diner where she worked as a waitress. "Remember, Habibi, Mrs. Thompson will pick you up for school," Amira reminded Tariq as she hurried to get ready. At the diner, Amira went through the motions of her job, taking orders and serving food with a politeness that never quite reached her eyes. Most of the regulars had grown used to her presence, but she still caught the occasional suspicious glance or overheard muttered comments. It was during the lunch rush that Amira first saw James Cooper. He sat alone in a booth, staring blankly at the menu. As she approached to take his order, she noticed the crutches and the haunted look in his eyes, a look she recognized all too well. "What can I get for you?" Amira asked, pen poised over her notepad. James looked up, seeming to notice her for the first time. "Just coffee, please, black," he said. As Amira turned to fetch his order, she heard a commotion from the kitchen. The cook, Frank, was in a heated argument with Ahmed, a teenager who, like Amira, had come to Millbrook as a refugee. "I told you to mop the floor, not flood it," Frank shouted. Ahmed, his face burning with shame, stammered out an apology. Amira felt a surge of protective anger and stepped between Frank and Ahmed. "It was an accident," she said firmly. "There's no need to shout." Frank turned his ire on Amira. "Stay out of this," he growled. "You people need to learn your place." The diner had gone silent, all eyes on the unfolding confrontation. Amira stood her ground, thinking of Tariq. "Our place," Amira said, "is wherever we choose to make it. We came here for safety, a chance at a better life. We work hard and we deserve respect." Frank opened his mouth to retort, but a new voice cut him off. "The lady's right," said James, standing unsteadily, leaning on his crutches. "I've seen what hate and ignorance can do," James continued. "I've seen it tear apart families, destroy homes, and leave nothing but pain in its wake. Frank's anger seemed to deflate under James's steady gaze. He mumbled something inaudible and retreated to the kitchen. As the other patrons gradually returned to their meals, James turned to Amira. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," he said. "Are you okay?" Amira nodded, surprised to find tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "Not everyone would have spoken up." James shrugged, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Seems to me we've all seen enough conflict to last a lifetime. The least we can do is try to understand each other." As James made his way back to his table, Amira felt a glimmer of hope she hadn't experienced in a long time. Perhaps, she thought, there was a place for them here after all. In the days that followed, James found himself drawn back to the diner, not for the coffee, but for the chance to talk with Amira. They formed an unlikely friendship, bonding over their shared experiences of loss and displacement. James found in Amira someone who could understand the weight he carried. For Amira, James represented a bridge between her old life and the new one she was trying to build. His willingness to listen helped her feel less alone. One evening, as James was walking Amira and Tariq home from the diner, they passed by the town's war memorial. Tariq, curious as always, asked about the names etched in stone. "Those are the names of brave men and women who died fighting for their country," James explained, his voice tight with emotion. Tariq looked thoughtful for a moment. "Like my papa?" he asked. James glanced at Amira, seeing the pain flash across her face. James knelt down, bringing himself to Tariq's eye level. "I'm sure your papa was very brave," he said gently, "and I bet he'd be really proud of how brave you and your mama are too." As they continued their walk, James found himself lost in thought. He had joined the military out of a sense of duty, but the reality of war had been far from the noble ideals he'd envisioned. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts on the events covered in this video, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss any video. Check out my next video.